my sound these days, whatever you've been doing. So
yeah, I'm going to start it right now, Neil. So welcome to Arsenal Above All. He's got a flying start. He's done a Usain Bolt, mate. He's got out the traps too soon. Yeah, we're buzzing. We're as you can tell, we've all got smiles on our faces. Welcome to Arsenal Above All. We're basking in the glow of the Community Shield win against the treble winners, Man City, on Sunday. And we are going to discuss the ramifications and the repercussions with the two fine gentlemen you can see, Brian and Neil. And lots to discuss tonight, as you can imagine, with the news that's broke about another transfer. So without further ado, let's go. Welcome to the show, the first of the 23-24 season, hopefully a victorious one, fingers crossed. I've got Brian Haley with me tonight. How you doing, Brian?
Yeah, I'm good, Mike. I'm good. Yeah, very pleased with Sunday. Very pleased.
Yeah, very, very pleased. Got a lot to talk about and discuss. So thanks for your time again, Brian, as always. And I've also got Neil. 23-24 double. He's not gone for the quadruple, so I'm a bit disappointed he's not got quad on there, but he's got double. So how you doing, Neil?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Sunday all being so well and fantastic and great and euphoria, but I'm more excited about the new outro and intro of this pod.
Oh, thank you very much, man. Thank you very much. Glad that hopefully it gets received well, and obviously the content as well, what is more important. So, gents, Sunday was a very enjoyable one. It turned out at the end, winning the Community Shield at the expense of Man City. Pretty dramatic at the end, obviously, with Trossard, and obviously the way he came on and took the game to City at the end. But I'll start with you, Brian. In terms of, we'll start at the very, very beginning, the lineup. I think I don't think many of us saw Havertz starting, and is this one of the things that kind of is, we can look at next, looking forward to the season, our unpredictability, because that's something what Arteta mentioned last season towards the tail end. We're becoming a bit predictable. We need to become a little bit unpredictable, and the fact that a lot of us went, okay, he's either going to play Eddie up front or he's going to play Trossard. Havertz weren't in the conversation at all, really. So were you sort of surprised at that, and were you happy with obviously his performance on the day?
I wasn't massively surprised because I think that the situation obviously with Jesus not being fit, and the obvious choice would have been probably putting Eddie in there. But I think, was it a curveball to a certain degree? I don't know. It may actually show us the pattern of where certain games that we will play next season, we will play with Havertz up top. I was saying that he was kind of, could we be making him into our next new Giroud? That target up top, because what he did, the basic things that he did actually reasonably well, to be honest with you. Yeah. Had a couple of chances, could have scored, did hold it up reasonably well. Still, obviously, his touch at times, could be a lot more sharper. But it's the opening game of the season. At the end of the day, I think it was actually a good selection, and I think it threw City slightly as well, because I think they were expecting probably to have Eddie up top there, and I don't think they expected to have Havertz up there. And I think he did a reasonably decent job up there, to be fair.
Yeah, I thought so as well. He had a couple of good touches. I think the first 20 minutes we looked like we were letting City have the ball, and we kind of seemed to learn from what we did at the Etihad, where we went almost like full press. We were literally chasing them into the corners and everything, and then we just got done with the ball over the top. It seemed like this time we stepped off a little bit, and and we were just setting traps and allowing them to sort of maybe come forward bit by bit, but we weren't overcommitting, and we had quite a decent block. How was it for you, Neil? Obviously, you were there, and obviously, the first 10, 15 minutes seemed a little bit like, oh, okay, this could be City all over again. They're dominating possession. But what was the atmosphere like in the stadium and after those first couple of minutes? And then when that chance fell to Havertz, did you just feel the momentum shift with the belief and the hope from the stands, coming from the stands?
To be honest, from the stands, it was a party from even before entering the stadium. It was incredible, the atmosphere. The Arsenal fans were in just as good as voice as they've been all season at the Emirates, and I felt that they obviously weren't taking this as a pre-season friendly or whatever you call it, and it was more like a really serious game. But they were having a good time and enjoying themselves. And honestly, when you entered the stadium, you couldn't hear the Man City fans at all. And I'll tell you why. What actually cemented that was when they were singing the North London Forever opening song Now For Us. It was just crazy loud, absolutely mental. And then when they did City's one, all the Arsenal fans booing, and you couldn't even hear it. I'm no word of a lie. I mean, obviously, all right, it was separated into two halves with fans, but you just could not hear it. And honestly, throughout the whole game, we were all saying to each other, "What these City fans? You can't even hear them. You can't even hear them." And we started singing the same old, "Shall we sing a song for you?" etc., etc. So from that point of view, it even though I felt that the first 15, 20 minutes, I thought this is almost like a game of chess, but it was quite dull. I have to admit that the actual gameplay, it was so. I'll be honest with you, it was boring. It wasn't great to watch. But I just felt like they're playing a game of chess here with each other, almost like testing each other out. Maybe there's a little bit too much respect both ways. But then, and then when that chance fell to Havertz, it kind of gave us a little bit more belief. But obviously, I felt that the second half we came alive. We were a lot better in the second half for me. We obviously had some moments in the first half, of course, but I thought the second half was a much better show. But on reflection, looking back on our game as a whole, I thought that was very clever. I think, they were just letting City do what they wanted to do, almost like teasing them. And Havertz, I've got to say, I'm hearing a lot of criticism about him, and maybe it's justified or will be justified. I sincerely hope not. I don't believe it will be. I think we've got a very useful, different type of player in him who can be used. I think what Brian just touched on, it could be dependent on the type of game and the type of opposition we're playing that he'll be useful in. I think he's going to be a really good player in the sense of playing up front. He can switch roles as well, as we all know, and I just think he'll add a different dimension. And to be honest, especially the first chance, maybe the second one he could have done a bit better and not aimed at the keeper, but the first chance, doing that, capturing the ball and doing that turn and then executing the shot, I was quite impressed with that. But there's two or three players that really stood out for me. But I'm not worried about Havertz. It is the first sort of proper game, I guess, before the real season starts. And I think he's going to be our option for quite a few of these games. But for me, I have to say, I'm going to say it again before I finish. Trossard needs to be starting more. I think he's a phenomenal player.
Yeah, we'll talk about him in a bit, but definitely agree with your sentiments on the Havertz. The fact that there were a couple of occasions where we broke the press, where we went long, it went up to him, it stuck, and then he sort of initiated a move once I think down the left and once down the right. He just gives us massive options, and I think with the two chances, yes, you probably think he could do better, especially with the second one. I think the first one the ball was a little bit behind him, and he did well to manufacture a shot. But I think the key thing is that he was in those positions. I think there's a couple of times where we've worked moves like that, and Jesus is nowhere to be seen there. He's either out on the left or right, or he's coming into the box, whereas Havertz was there. So that's a really good sign. I mean, obviously City kind of had the first blow where Rodri had a shot which went wide. We had those chances, and Saliba cleared one kind of off the line as well. I mean, we'll talk about him later as well. It's just ridiculous performance from him. It just doesn't look like he's had any sort of back injury or back issues. Strange enough, but another performance. I mean, the performances from Timber as well was just ridiculous. Again, this is a guy that we bought, and everyone was saying he's going to replace Ben White. And that's the position he's going to get into. He's played on the left. I think Arteta'S played this back four for the last 3 preseason games now, so that's kind of a settled back four. It's going to be interesting if we talk about the keeper that might be coming in, how that sort of maybe does that disrupt it or not. But that's I think we have to wait and see. But so what do you think about Timber, man? Because for me, Timber is like he offers what Zinchenko does in terms of progressing the play, coming in and inverting. But he's a better defender. He's a much better defender as well, which is another caveat for him in terms of the whole Zinchenko thing was like, well, Tierney's a better defender, but he can't offer anything what Zinchenko does in terms of us dominating possession. But Timber can do that. Timber can give us that domination of midfield, and he can invert and he can defend as well, which is a key thing. And another thing which I think which was massive as well is we played 4 centre backs effectively on Sunday, and that's kind of what City did last season when they went on their run. They played 4 centre backs across the back, and so it's interesting that the key thing about playing the 4 centre backs, which Guardiola said, was these players, they win their duels. The centre backs like to be up against their attacker, and they like to win their duels, and they like to be aggressive. And I think you saw that with Ben White. I don't know if you saw it. You might not have seen it, Neil, when you was there. But there was an instance where in the first half, midway through the first half, where Grealish had the ball, he kind of offloaded the ball, and White gave him a little dig, digging the ribs. I think it was kind of dead leg. And Grealish is looking back at him, like saying, "Oh, what the hell are you doing?" And Ben White just blanked him. He didn't even acknowledge him. Didn't want to have any conversation with him. He just carried on with his game. And it's that sort of little figure, little edge. I don't think Grealish did anything else for the rest of the game. I'm not saying that was the reason why, but it just took him off his game a little bit. And I think us having 4 centre backs, effectively 4 centre backs who know that how to defend, is going to be a massive plus for us going forward. What was your thoughts on him, and obviously Saliba as well, because both of them absolutely immense.
Yeah, I think Timber's strength as well was the addition.
Yeah,
of that. We've kind of seen it as kind of he is the one that's got kind of like he's got the guile on the ball like Zinchenko has, but he's a defender like Tierney has, but doesn't mind getting forward as well. So we've kind of got that defender that effectively is doing what the other two can do all into one. And he draws a foul as well when he's in possession. And which I noticed when I was watching the game and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. He's just got something. Yeah, he is going to be. I think he's going to be critical to what effectively we do this season. Critical. I know we talk about Saliba as well, but that area last season, when we got to the business end of it, was the problematic side.
Yeah,
was the problematic side, and I think that's now been addressed. And as you quite rightly said, Mike, it is effectively 4 centre halves. Yes, he's played at centre half for Ajax, and he's obviously not the tallest of centre halves, but Martinez at Manchester United is not that tall either. So obviously it's a way of defending that they don't necessarily have to be 6'2" or 6'3". It's how you defend.
Yeah.
So he's going to be quite critical, I think, in how in tight games as well. In tight games. And yesterday, Sunday was a tight game at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. How compact that we generally were when we allowed them to have it. Did not allow Haaland basically to spin in behind us. Didn't allow little balls going in between the channels, in between the lines. We made it so, and then when they got the ball out wide, Timber was effectively there on that side. Ben White, it was effectively no nonsense on that side. They weren't giving them anything, and it ended up being a Kanji on the left hand side for them, but actually got beyond because Saka didn't track him.
Yeah.
It was actually a Kanji that went that way.
Yeah.
It wasn't Grealish that was doing the work in there. So I think this pre-season, I think Arteta's really read into what the problems were in last season, and he's addressed it, I think, really, really well.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's going to be interesting to see how he rotates that, especially with the Champions League and everything coming into play in a few weeks' time. But in terms of, I'll talk about the atmosphere again, Neil, but one person that influenced the atmosphere was the referee, or I don't know whether he was a referee. I don't know whether he was a City fanboy. I don't know what he was, but he wasn't a competent official. I mean, it's a silly question. I only imagine what the atmosphere, what was being said with some of those decisions he wasn't making. But yeah, what was going on with the Stuart Atwell again? He was the one in charge when we lost to City. I think it was a New Year's Day we played them or something when we went when we should have had a penalty. Odegaard got a penalty, then he sends off Gabriel in the second half, and then Rodri scores last minute and celebrates in front of the junior gunners and gets pelters, and then he starts crying. Oh, why are you doing that? But he was the same referee. It was almost the same performance where he literally just gave City everything, absolutely everything. What was going through your head when you was watching that, man?
I was thinking he's going to go home and enjoy the nice little bonus from Pep that he's received. He's going to have a comfortable week and he's going to have a good time spending the money. That's what I thought. Pretty much everyone around me is the same. That the ref was being paid off here. That's how it felt, because every single hard challenge that they inflicted on our players, nothing, not a thing. And then the silly little things, he would pull the yellow card out for our players. We've seen it so many times in the last few seasons. It's untrue. I was talking to my friend Dean, who I went with early today on the phone, and we were remembering stuff going back years and years and years ago now, even 20 years ago, same sort of thing, unfairness and really ridiculous decisions, and it just doesn't seem to change. I always feel that when we're playing against 12 men. It really does feel that way. I started even shouting out that even Saka, I said all the England players, at least the key ones, seem to always get protected by the referees, and he doesn't. Why is that? Because he's Arsenal? Or what's going on here? I've always felt. I know people think that I'm taking it as two step too far, but I always felt there's something not right. There is just something not right. There is some sort of vendetta. I know other clubs suffer very bad decisions. Could mean the difference between relegation or staying up in the league. I know they've suffered the same. But as an Arsenal fan, I feel it so, it almost feels personal. It's so bad when you're sitting there, when you feel that your players are working so hard and they've done nothing wrong and they're just not getting the justice that they deserve. But more importantly than any of that is some of the horror tackles that sometimes go and could cause really bad injuries. We saw it, didn't we? Which game was it? I can't remember which game it was. And you just think that against Man U, wasn't it? Was it against Man U?
There was one on Saka from Martinez, and then the one in Barcelona on Jesus.
I mean, they could be season or even worse injuries, and nothing is done about it. And this is the protection thing I'm thinking of. But the crowd were not happy, and I cannot repeat what was being repeated around me about the referee. Of course, your channel might get banned as a result. But I felt that despite all that, we rose above. For me, rose above the injustice. And I have to say, you mentioned him earlier, and I'm sure you're going to speak about him. But Saliba is out of this world. I want to say one thing about Saliba. Not only does he make the game look so simple and so easy when it clearly isn't at this level, especially against arguably the best team in the world at the moment, but against Haaland, to completely shut him out, absolutely, 13 passes and no shots on target or whatever it was, and him having to be substituted early. You can do your three fingers, but you're doing that because you know that you've been utterly destroyed by this magnificent player. And I don't know if you remember, it might have been on your pod, it might have been on Jack's. I was saying that I'm not worried about facing City and Haaland because we've got Saliba. And unfortunately, when it came to it, Saliba was out injured for that game. And look what he's shown that he can do. And I've got nothing but just accolades for this lad. He's still so young. And it's starting to show he clearly does love this club. And I hope that he's going to be around for a long time. And, you know, we've got, you said 4 centre-backs. We've arguably got 6. Because if you think about Kiwior and Tomiyasu, they could also play as centre-backs as well, I think. So we've actually got 6 centre-backs. Our defence is not a problem at all. No worries. Especially with him at the helm, leading it. Amazing.
Yeah, I totally agree because, yes, Tomiyasu he's brought Tomiyasu in on certain occasions when he had to do a job, like he did a job on Salah last season when we beat Liverpool. He put him in as on the left-hand side, did he? Yeah. And he did a job there. And obviously Kyrgios, he's impressed as well. He's had a good pre-season as well. So, they're definitely the depth in the defence is there. It's scary, really. Just probably feel that maybe there's one position that we need to maybe address on the right hand side and maybe up front. But if Havertz can continue to improve, then that's another option. Just so to come to you, Brian. Obviously, in terms of teams, obviously looking ahead to the season to come, teams, we've seen teams who have scaled great heights. So players that have won World Cups and won big trophies. And and then maintaining that motivation to go forward. And obviously, we know the team that has done the treble, and how it's going to be hard for them to maybe motivate themselves to continue to go forward. So do you think with us winning the MLS game, the Emirates Cup, and the Community Shield, do you think Arteta will have a job motivating the players after completing their pre-season treble?
Oh, they'll be highly motivated. Just handling any silverware basically is motivation. Poor old Tottenham, they can't. What is silverware to them? They're still wondering what silverware actually is. What is silver?
Well, let's give them credit. They did win a Tiger Cup, so I don't know what that is, but there's levels. Even in pre-season, we're levels above. So
yeah, but the trophy was made as wood. So
oh, there you go. Yeah. Probably got a crate of Tiger Bear with it or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think the motivation. I think. Not necessarily, I think that the trophies in any shape or form. I think it's more the motivation to go one step further. I think the taste and the bitterness, probably in some respects as well, of not winning the league should be the driver this season. I think from what I saw from the game on Sunday, Arteta is getting us tactically more set up better.
Yeah.
It's now down to the players because the talent is already there. We've already seen it. And it's now probably the time to deliver. And I think that's probably something, I suppose, that Mikel Arteta is effectively saying to them, this is the opportunity to really take the opportunity. And I know it's going to be even tougher because obviously, the likes of Chelsea and the likes of Manchester United and Newcastle, have all invested this season, and Liverpool, of course, as well. So it's going to be a lot tougher. But I think we've got we should now have the know-how and the mentality now of trying to overcome games which are going to be tighter. The inclusion of Declan Rice I think is probably what he did. He did the simple things right, and that's all you effectively need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
Chase down lost causes, put pressure on. At times he was the furthest man forward.
Yeah.
And for someone who's been at the club a month, had to readapt himself to a certain degree. You can tell he's an intelligent boy. He's taken things on board, but he's also got that inner leadership which will drive people along with him. He'll take people with him, and I think that's what we need to overcome going to, again, the likes of Anfield, the likes of Old Trafford, to the Etihad, St James's Park. You're going to need characters like that in games to make sure that we get a result. And I think, so silverware for us this season is I think it's imperative, really. To be honest with you, it's imperative.
Can I just say a couple of things very quickly? So, there's obviously people, some fans, and again, there is some justice in that, saying that, look, you can't read too much into it. But I think you can read a lot into this game. As Brian alluded to, it's more of a psychological thing. It's not about what it was, what the occasion was. It's more of the psychological edge that we have against this team that basically was our blocker for last season. They're not out the FA Cup as well. So in theory, they're maybe the reason that we didn't win anything. It's in a direct sense, and to come away, and I thought in the end it was a very, very professional performance by us. Yeah, all right, you can argue that it was a little bit lucky deflection, but at the end of the day, Trossard made that happen. It was his invention that created that chance and the opportunity to get us back in the game, which led to the penalties. But I just feel that this is so much more than the Community Shield. This is a massive moral boost, and it's also a good starting block to start the season in a few days' time. And the players and the taste of the celebrations afterwards, it was like a carnival. It literally was a carnival. All the players' songs that are there were being played. Like the Sinchenko one, and then you had the Rice Baby, and the States Quo one, is it? And then they even played Santi Cazorla's one as well, which was lovely. And it was just such a carnival atmosphere. And I think experiencing that, even though it's not some people again argue a nothing trophy, it's so important for the players to taste that success. And the other thing I just want to say, I think again, Brian, I don't mean to repeat what you said, and I'm really sorry, but I feel that out of all the big teams that you mentioned, I think now, and this is even with City, we're probably the most stable, because we've had the experience of last year of coming so close. We've actually built on that, and it's almost as if we're the most stable. If you even look at City, losing Gundogan, for example, just one of them that they've lost, that's massive, I think, for them. He was very instrumental in their treble success, and I think we just might have that edge. It might be the start of the passing of the baton. You can't, of course, City are probably going to be favourites for everything again, but I just feel that, and I don't mind that. I'd rather us be the underdog, not looking as the favourites, because I think we always perform better as underdogs anyway. And I think we should take so much out of the last few games. It doesn't matter if they're pre-season friendlies. I think it's what it means and how the players have adjusted. And just one more thing, Arteta and Edu deserve a lot of kudos, because if you think about the last couple of seasons, the signings they've made, I don't think there's been any bad signings. And that's something that Wenger didn't get quite right on a lot of occasions. And I think that was because he was very restricted with finances. And again, Arteta and Edu have had the backing, thankfully, finally, from the owners. But they've made some very good, shrewd signings. And a lot of congratulations have got to be, sent their way. Yeah, okay, we haven't won anything yet, but I think we're in a very good position to do so from that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You probably say the only one who you probably say hasn't worked out was probably the keeper, but because he wasn't a keeper to the Renarson, because he wasn't there to challenge, properly. Number one, you look at the Ramsdale one, because that was the one where people were doubting, saying, "Well, this guy, is he good enough?" And obviously, look what's happened. But you're right. I mean, you've got their talent ID. And not just their talent, but the way they are as individuals, as human beings off the pitch. You can see that they all have values in them which match exactly what the club aspire to be, and how they conduct and carry themselves. I think James sent us a clip in the WhatsApp group about when the players went up to get the trophy, and when they came down, and a lot of the players were high-fiving a guy who was waiting on the side, and Saka's the last one down, and instead of giving a high five or a dab, whatever, he gives a guy a proper big bear hug. Doesn't need to do that. you know, gives him a bear hug, says a few words with him, and just being a class human for 10 seconds or 5 seconds, that guy's going to remember that for the rest of his life. You know, it's just little things like that. So it just shows you the class that the players have on the pitch and off, and it will just it will lead us well. Obviously, hopefully, when we are successful, when we get the big trophies, it's going to be even more, because they're going to be achieved by players that we've absolutely love and absolutely respect, because they're representing the club so well, that we all love so well. And it's right, Neil, about the celebrations. The celebrations were great. Obviously, I'd like to show this one of Arteta and his set piece coach as well, doing the Macarena, I think it is, whatever it is, and obviously people say, no, well, it's not important really, because, you know, City didn't really want to win it, but just there's Pep when he went 1-0 up, you know, so he's not just applauding, you know, is he? He's jumping around like a lunatic. So again, it just shows you, you know, it's funny because you wouldn't have heard on the commentary, Neil, but you had Sam Matterface, who me and Brian absolutely love, and Lee Dixon. And Lee Dixon, he must have been in Club Wembley, sampling the free stuff that they give him, because some of the stuff he was coming out with was absolute nonsense. And at the end of the day, yes, he is a City fan, boyhood fan, so he probably had that sort of in him. But some of the stuff he was coming out with was absolute nonsense. The Rodri tackle at the end, where he basically clotheslined Partey, who was going through. Dixon said, "Oh, it's all right. It's too late in the game to give him a yellow card. You know, it's all right. You don't have to worry about that." Just unbelievable. Roy Keane, as usual, wasted all our money. You know, we overpaid for Declan Rice by his admission. To be fair, Emma Hayes, who was there, who I don't take to at all, she was actually defending at Arsenal's transfer strategy and everything, and it almost looked like she was goading him a little bit, because she was standing on the ground, and he was like, weren't having it. He was just, no, you know, they've overpaid. They've got to win. At the start, everyone was saying, well, if Arsenal get a result against City, it's going to be a great psychological boost going into the season. You know, against City, we win it. Well, it's only a friendly. It doesn't really matter. You know, the complete 180 when, you know, at the end of the final was amazing.
I think, you know what, mate? Sorry, just one thing. When the game itself, when it was panning around and looking at the fans, when it was panned onto a young kid, Man City fan, when we got the equaliser, the poor kid was in tears.
Yeah, he was in tears, yeah.
That's what it effectively means to fans, regardless upon what the ex-pros might think of it and stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, that trophy was between the top two teams last season.
Yeah.
Okay. It wasn't an FA Cup. It wasn't an FA Cup winner that could have been relegated into the Championship last season. It was the two top teams last season in the Premier League. So that trophy mattered.
Yeah,
it mattered, and it showed between the. And he said it showed between the fans, but it showed between the two managers and the two sets of players as well.
Brian, exactly. I mean, end of the day, people seem to forget it's not just about the players and the people watching on telly. Some people may only have the chance to go to 1 or 2 games in their whole life, and that's the truth. And maybe some of these fans have gone to Wembley for the very first time. Wembley's iconic. Might not be the greatest of stadiums. There are some issues with it, let me say. But end of the day, it's still an iconic stadium. It is around the world. It's renowned. And to be there and to be part of an occasion, no matter what the occasion is, I mean, it mean a hell of a lot. Like exactly the example you cited about the young boy. Yeah, it could mean the world to him to be there. And I'm sorry, for people to say it means nothing and it's a nothing match. All right, fine. You have your opinion. But as you said, Michael, look at Pep's reaction. Of course they wanted to win it. Pep has not achieved what is achieved by going into any game thinking, I don't want to win this. I mean, that is absolute nonsense.
Yeah, you saw his reactions afterwards. When De Bruyne missed the penalty, missed his penalty, and they cut to Guardiola, and his face just dropped, and it was quite funny actually. I was going to take a shot of it and put it on air, but his face just dropped, and you saw his body language afterwards. I noticed they didn't even put the medals over their heads; they just gave it to him. Like they just gave it, and they took it in their hands. There wasn't none of that. It was like, oh, here you go. And they just took it, and you saw in their reaction, it hurt them. You know, they didn't want to lose. They were tagging this last, I think in 2019, they won 4 trophies, and they included the Community Shield in their little graphic on their website, on their Twitter account as well. So it meant something to them, you know what I mean? So again, it's just, I think it's the pundits who didn't like the whole trust the progress stuff and bashed Arteta at the beginning. Keane, obviously you see that clip with him and Tim Cahill about how Cahill was trying to say what Arteta's doing, and Keane brushed it off. Gary Neville's come out and said, I don't know what Arsenal's strategy is. They've all come out and bashed this progress, and the fact that we are making progress and there is a template there to follow, they're being shown up and they just don't like it, and plus the whole they hate us anyway. They've always had it in for Arsenal. I think it's definitely a north-south thing, Neil, when we talk about the refereeing, because you only got to look at where all the referees are. They're all up north, so that comes into it as well. So,
but you know what, Mike, the punditry is also coming from failed managers.
Exactly, that's another thing as well. That's another thing.
Coming from failed managers.
Yeah,
yeah. So, you know, they can only judge on what they basically think that they see. But if actually, as managers, as players, they won loads. Can't knock the fact as players that they won loads. But as managers, their managerial careers were reasonably brief and didn't win anything. So,
yeah, very, very, very true. So yeah, before we just talk about we talk about Forest actually, because obviously that's to come, big kickoff. Obviously City kickoff against Burnley Friday night, and then we have the early game against Nottingham Forest. What are you thinking, Neil, in terms of the lineup? Do you change it? Do you stick this man in? Because I think he was unlucky not to start on Sunday. I thought he was brilliant. Some of the touches he did on the touchline as well with ESR, the way he was linking up with ESR and Vieira was brilliant. And just the way even the way he took his penalty, man, the way he walked up to his penalty. I think I said in the script, this guy's he's the coolest guy alive. He just looked like all he needed was shades on and the smoking jacket. That was the only thing missing for Trossard. He's just too cool for words. And I would love him to start against Forest. I think we should have enough to beat Forest at home. Everyone up for it. But what's your thoughts on that game and what we do, man?
Right. You know what I'm going to say about this man. He has to start. I think he's been unlucky not to start since to keep his starting place since January. I rate him that highly. I know Jesus when he came back from injury did some nice stuff, and he's done showed a little bit of quality when we've had this pre-season friendlies before. Again, getting injured unfortunately. But for me, this man is. I'm going to go. I've been saying one of the best January signings ever. I think it's the best January signing. I can't recall a better January signing than this lad. Yeah. I think he's a wonderful player. We've got ever so cheap, in my opinion, compared to the prices that have been go around these days for players.
Yeah.
And he just offers. As soon as he comes on the pitch, for me, the whole dynamic changes. It's just if a game isn't going so well, if it's a little bit dead or whatever in terms of creativity or movement forward or high press or whatever it is, or going forward rather and running with the ball, making passes which you think, wow, look at that. He just adds something different. He links up with those quality players that are the creative players, if you like what you said about that ESR. I just feel that how could he not start when Jesus got injured and we felt, and then Trossard was brought in and we had Trossard, Martinelli and Saka. I thought that was a wonderful forward lineup. I actually think for me, that is our starting forward lineup. That's my opinion. What do I know? But for me, that they are just great. I know we've got Havertz. I know we've got Jesus. I know we've got Nketiah. I know we've got Nelson coming in through, hopefully after. I don't know if he's still injured or whatever, what's going on with him. But we've got all these players, but they're options because we need them. Yeah. But I think that should be our default starting lineup. And I know people are going to disagree with me, but I really believe that. But I think I would keep the defence the same, actually, because wow, what a defence!
Oh,
my God, why change it? If he's experimented to see how they get on for the start of the season and it's worked, I don't see why there should be any change. I think for me, I think everything will probably stay the same, but I'd rather see Trossard. start.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't think we should change much of it. And I'm sure, again, I'm probably treading on both your toes, but Declan Rice, I think that's the first game I've seen where he's now starting to settle in properly. I think there was probably a little bit of match-up fitness with him. And of course, he had to adjust, because I guess when he was playing for West Ham, he was more playing a defensive role, because, you know, West Ham was that team where everyone tried to go for them. But this time now, his role has changed. He doesn't have to worry so much about the defense, because look at what he's got behind him. Yeah. And I think he's adjusting. But my God, those two track backs, oh my God. And that's what we need. We need that, because that can really put, you know, if an opposition is playing and they think, right, we got the ball, we got a chance, we're going to go and win the match. And all of a sudden that happens, it can really mess with your confidence. Yeah. Like you said about the tackle that Holding made on, not Holding, Ben White made on Grealish.
Yeah.
That really can mentally affect you, because it's like saying, I'm here. Do you remember when Holding did it to that
Costa?
Yes.
Yeah, Diego Costa. Yeah.
Right. You're not going to get one on me, son. It's that psychological edge that two players against each other. And I think we're a team full of mean, strong men now, rather than, you know, all those number 10s we used to have, which are all talented, super talented, but there was no real something physical about them. We've got a lot of physical presence now. We're not going to be bullied anymore, and I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful time to really see us progress and do good things. But I think keep the team the same, maybe with the exception of Trossard starting.
Yeah, because I think I agree. I think against Forest, you're probably going to have a different a low block, aren't you, Brian? They're gonna sit in and try and hit on the counter. With Gibbs Morgan, always and White, sorry, and try and do some damage there, and obviously that big guy they had up front who scored against us last season. But yeah, you pretty much go the same with Neil in terms of changing that up. Obviously, the defense. It's just, again, you know, do you need Partey and Rice in that situation, or do you just keep it the same, or just with that change? Or
I would keep it the same, and actually I would. It's a difficult one, because if Forest decide that they want to play with three centre halves again, when it's a right difficult one, because when Eddie was up top when we played against them at the City Ground, you know, he didn't get a sniff, did he? It was battered blue. Probably having Havertz up top there as a bit more of a focal, maybe a little bit different, but he's going to have runners around him this time. So you might find that the likes of Martinelli and Saka may have to stay slightly inside. Yeah. Or you've got to have the runner, which will be, you know, which ultimately could be Odegaard or Declan Rice, you know, as the runner beyond. Yeah. And that's where I suppose in some respects, you know, everybody was going on about the goals that Declan Rice hasn't scored, basically. That could be, you know, where he will get his goals from. Yeah. Yeah. You know, making those runs, slightly running beyond, because he's playing further forward. So I would probably start with how we started. But we know we've got the changes there. I think personally, Neil, what you were saying about Trossard, certainly in home games, he should feature a lot more. Yeah, definitely. I think he should feature at home a lot more. I'm not saying that he doesn't have the abilities within away games, because depends on the type of the opposition playing away from home, of course. But he should be, because we're going to have possession most of the time at home, and we need people who are going to effectively unlock, you know, door. You know, and he's arguably one of our best players, if not arguably one of, you know, him and Odegaard can actually unlock it. So I would get him to more feature in a lot of home games. The game though on Sunday, as I said, we're going to likely play against a 5 at the back, aren't we? And 3 centre halves. Yeah. So we're going to probably need a focal up there, really.
But shout out, I agree. I mean, you know, he could go left field and put Vieira in. Who knows? Because obviously, you know, shout out to him. You know, he stepped up. You know, big penalty. Obviously, he got mobbed by the players eventually after they finished mobbing Ramsdale. But yeah, great for him. Actually, I saw something. I don't know if you've seen the All Access or stuff that Arsenal released, and at the end, Arteta goes over to Vieira, and Vieira actually picks up Arteta. He actually lifts him up in the air. I know Arteta's pretty small, but he's quite stocky, so he's got some strength there to pick him up. And that was a nice moment for him. And I think he seems like he's a confidence player, and I think he'll offer a lot this season. Shout out also to Saka tucking his penalty as well. I think it might have been the same end where he missed the penalty for England, and obviously he's missed his last two. So shout out to him, and also to Odegaard, starting from as he meant to go, leading as example for leading and taking the first penalty and tucking it away. And I thought he played well as well. He didn't necessarily have an outstanding game, but there was a couple of passes he made which were absolutely outstanding. But just to finish, gents, what was your, obviously last season, pre-season, it was a lot more hope and optimism. This one seems like it's more expectation. So I think you mentioned about earlier, Bri, about maybe obviously us getting a trophy. But what's your hopes for the season, Neil, ahead? Overall.
Overriding is always good performances and not to just capitulate. I think we capitulated tail end of last season. Again, I still put that down to Tomiyasu and Saliba's injury. I think that really affected the whole team. But this is it. This is it. Maybe in a way for the future and going forward, that wasn't a bad thing, because it's something that we've all learned from. If we hadn't had that experience and just won, maybe there was a bit of false sense of security going forward. Because I don't want us just to win the title once or and that's it, and then not do it again for another 20, 30 years. I want this to be a consistent thing for the next few years. I really do. I want to see some consistency from Arsenal. Again, not necessarily just always lifting trophies, but being the team to watch out for, being the team that's in the mix. So I think overriding is performances. But yeah, I think we're good enough. We're strong enough to challenge. And I think there might even be a cup in it for us because we've got the squad depth now. Yeah. So yeah, that's why I didn't go for the quad. I think the quad will happen in 2 seasons' time. So I'm going double, treble, quad. So yeah, that's why I want the consistency. And a hat trick of Prem titles would be nice to boot. So I think we've got every chance of winning the Premiership simply because of what I said earlier. But I think we're probably the most stable team now. Yeah, I think all the others are in transition. They're buying new players. Pochettino, he's a great manager. I know he'll do things. He'll probably stabilise Chelsea because they're all over the place. But I still think it's very new, and they've got so many different players going in and out, and God knows what else. So, I think it will be Man City, Arsenal again. But I think we may just have the edge, and I think that's why Pep was so sullen-faced. So I think he's now realised, I think we're up against it this season. I really do believe that. And I think we might win the FA Cup as well. I'm just hoping we do. So for me, that's my expectation.
It's funny. It's true. I think you said earlier, people talk about us or City winning the treble and us not winning the league. But effectively, you could say City stopped us doing the double. And if you look at it that way, it makes you think, doesn't it? What about yourself, Bri? What's your hopes for the season? Pretty much echoing what Neil's said, being competitive and going for all trophies that are there because we've got the squad.
Yeah, totally echo what Neil's basically said. Performances, absolutely. I think how we go and manage games, and I know we've probably said it for the last season, 2 seasons, but it is about go. If you're wanting to go for the title, for argument's sake, that you're going to have to go and put performances at Anfield, at the Etihad, at Old Trafford, and then grind out the results at Brentford and Brighton and stuff like that. So, and we've got, and again, you've kind of got levels, not jeopardy in any sense, but the games that you think about last season where we fell down, Brighton at home. Okay, the Forest game now at home, the opening game of the season we've got after losing 1-0 there last season. You've got things to think about, thinking we don't want to repeat certain situations which basically happened last season, and that's a start. To me, that's a start off point. The other a lot of it will take care of itself, but you go into those games thinking there's motivation, and there's another motivation on top of it to win those games. For us to win things, we've got to win something. I don't even think it's a case of, we've got to go and win something. And if it is the FA Cup, if it's a Carabao Cup, and it ends up being a league, who knows? We could be a surprise shock in the Champions League. Who knows? Yeah. But we've got to go and win something, and we've just got to be competitive. That squad now, okay, is still arguably going to be one of the youngest squads in the league still. Yeah. And it's had the experience of last season and added to it. So there's a lot of enthusiasm in that squad. So, and also the competition for places, and we haven't had a chance to talk about the keeper aspect of it.
Yeah.
That situation in itself, Ramsdale's already come out today and says, bring it on. Yeah. Absolutely. We need that competition. And, look, David Raya he's going to get game time. We all know that. We know that Ramsdale's going to be number one, and it's only going to take a mistake or two. That is basically for him not, to not be the number one. Okay. So both of them are going to be on their toes, but both of them are going to play. And that's the most important thing for David Raya. He's going to play. He may play certain Champions League games. He may play most of the Carabao Cup games. He may play most of the FA Cup games. He will get game time. But the league will be the one really, because if it's a goalkeeping mistake in a league game where we're 1-up and it's it's a late equaliser and it's a goalkeeping mistake, that's where the pressure is going to be really on Ramsdale, for argument's sake. So I think it's good. I think it's good competition, to be honest with you. I'm not one of these people where you have your number one keeper and then you've got a backup. To me, you've got that number one keeper basically thinks, well, I can make 1, 2, 3 mistakes. I'm still going to play, because they're still not going to be reliant on that number 2 to come in. Yeah. Nah, that's for me. No, they need that competition. As Ramsdale basically says, bring it on, and that we'll just see the best of performances basically from both of them when they both play.
Yeah, be win-win for the club, wouldn't it? You've got 2 keepers at the top, top of the game pushing. That's all you can ask for. So interesting, exciting times ahead. Obviously, Sunday was a really nice way to start off the season and the end of pre-season, sort of a little bit of both. But it all starts. The proper business starts on Saturday lunchtime, and then hopefully we can just kick off the season with a good win, a few goals, 3 points, and then we just kick on from there. So that's pretty much it for tonight. I appreciate your time again, Brian. Thanks very much for coming on, and some great stuff from you as always. Appreciate that. And Neil, again, yes, as usual, thank you very much for your time, man.
Pleasure.
Greatly appreciated. Some great insight from you both. Hopefully, you two will be involved in some Champions League chat post game. We'll try and have some more condensed, concise, just little review of what happens, what's going to happen, obviously, after some of the group games, and it'd be great to be talking about that level of football again. It's been a long time, and I know you're talking about being one of the youngest teams in the league, probably one of the youngest teams in the squads in the Champions League as well, of the big boys, who people are already talking about. And I think if you look beyond City, and maybe to a certain extent Real Madrid, PSG are leaking players. No one wants to play for them anymore. Bayern are looking to buy Harry Kane, and they just about won the league last. It's not. If we get a run, who knows? Like you said, we could be a surprise package. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. But thanks very much, guys. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for everyone watching, subscribing, sharing, and liking the vids and the stuff we put out. I really, really appreciate it. We'll be back after the Forest game, maybe Sunday night, or it most definitely will be Monday night if it isn't a Sunday. And hopefully we're talking about that, and obviously looking ahead to the games to come on our assault to winning the league after 20 years after the Invincibles. So what a time to get that. So thanks very much. Thanks to Brian. Still can't do this right. Thanks to Brian. Thanks to Neil. Lots of love, guys. And what's left to say is, come on, you Gunners.
Man, remember, Giroud into the box, and they have immediately